Who in here? Is anybody Jewish?
Well, this is what I've been told by the Hebrew Israelites, that we're part of that nation. But, you know, like that, you know, I don't know.
Well, the term...
I mean, we go to 12 tribes. So.
Right. The term Jewish is has been grossly misunderstood and for the most part utilized to describe a racial group of people. However, it doesn't describe a race. It's really an English term, and it doesn't really, it's an anglicized variant of the word Yahoo. And what I'm driving at is that the fact that we say that we're not Jewish is indicative of the fact that we can't see ourselves in the historical experience. We think terms like Jewish or any of the systems that go along with what our Judaism are in fact Eurocentric. And we are now lending support to a new era where we no longer even want to participate in studying anything outside of what has been presented to us as being culturally and cultural affinity to our blackness. Now, every world religion, there's no such thing as a localized country or continent that is the one that has the monopoly on all spirituality. Spirituality is a through line, it's a spirit, it's a frequency that funnels itself through every living entity on the planet. Everyone has a spiritual practice all over the globe. The through line connecting all of them together is astrology. What we have in the Western hemisphere, the Western world, or in Western philosophy or theology today in the form of our religious structure are all rooted in astrological principles. When you said that you learned from the Hebrew Israelites that you were part of a particular tribe, those 12 tribes are indicative or emblematic and representative of the 12 constellations. The 12 constellations are a delineation or a means by which to separate the sky for the understanding of those who see a bunch of constants. They were able to observe constants in the behaviors of the stars, that they did the same thing oftentimes during the same period. So through charting the stars, any civilized society that has anything to do with any type of stellar cosmology, they have to be working with a body of information that predates them at least 60,000 years in order for you to correctly chart various structures in the sky and to develop myths that imbue your knowledge of that. Now, what we have in the form of the Bible are traditions, mythical, and their origin of astrological principles as to what astrologically occurred in particular regions or particular times throughout the year. So all of those stories are a recapitulation over and over and over and over again on the manner in which man becomes man by way of his celestial source and light. Now, we have personages inside of the text whose names, who everything about them represents their role as the soul in the sojourn in the physical world. For instance, I'll speak because I want to go into something specific, and I'm putting this message out there to my brothers who are in the lodges of Freemasonry all over the world, that until you delve into your Freemasonic lore from the Kabbalistic perspective, until you delve into the why is your Freemasonry supported by the Bible, and if you remove the Bible, you would have no Freemasonry in the Western role. I'm putting out to you that you have to, in order for you to distinguish yourself in this present epoch, and you rise out of the barbecue and church-going Freemasonic lore, and back into the esoteric and occult fold, the only way to be able to do that is to endow yourself with symbol literacy. So today, we're going to speak about, in particular, because it's going to segue and come back to astrology, we're going to speak about, hold up. And the reason why we have to speak about metallurgy is because we are in a time of collapse. You know, collapse in reference to your currency. People's energy is being depleted as a result of you not knowing that they're connecting you to their monetary system by way of psychology and by way of high-end magic. Everybody uses magic against you, and they use Kabbalistic magic in particular, or what is termed in Western society as Kabbalistic magic. When they were utilizing it before anybody even used the term Kabbalah, it had another name. You understand what I'm saying? So names are just place markers for those who indulge in the indulgence of history and what the history affords you a quick view as to what happened prior to you. So now, metallurgy. Now, when we go to the Bible has various personages that have various functions. The one that we're going to speak about in particular, because of his role with the Ethiopian mythology, is Solomon. Now, why did I say his role with Ethiopian mythology? Who has ever heard of Wallace A. E. Wallace Budge? Mm-hmm. What is he known for?
Breaking down the Melanin.
Right, his work with the Melanin. Mm-hmm. Now, he was also instrumental in translating other texts from the region. He translated the texts of Zosimos, which were connected to the Gnostic vein of information. Now, when we take a look at Gnosticism, we see that Gnosticism stands as it's like, you ever been, it's like a portico. Before you get from the outside of the building into the inside, you got to go through a little enclosure. You understand? It's the segue, it's the bridge for you to understand. In order for you to understand Egyptian cosmology, you have to be versed in Egyptian language. You cannot read Egyptian cosmology and expect to extrapolate all of this inner meaning without having a root inside of etymology and knowing language. So how do you attune yourself to learning a smidgen of what they meant in Ken when they were dialoguing? You got to go to the babies who came out of what they extrapolated from the experience, and then look at what they were saying, because they was really taking the crumbs from daddy. You understand? So you gotta, when you're a detective, if you're a detective and you trying to find and crack your case and find yourself in the historical paradigm, you gotta investigate every little thing. So now when we go to the Gnostic scriptures and we say, well, where did we get the Nag Hammadi and the Gnostic scriptures from? Where do we get them from? We got them from the Nag Hammadi Valley, which is in Egypt. Scrolls wrapped up. When they unrolled the scrolls had some very interesting stories that spoke about some systems that were already in place. The Nag Hammadi scriptures were auspiciously found right after Israel took root as a faith state nation. Right? Now, the reason why is because, and the Dead Sea Scrolls started coming out, everybody wanted to holler about the Dead Sea Scrolls, is because a new group of people had politically fused themselves into the historical paradigm. And in doing so, they did so by way of spirituality, by obscuring the historical picture. Okay? So now they put themselves in the story, and now you're beginning to see your spiritual systems as actual historical truths when they're not. They were just your tools to get back home. Now, when you look very clearly, there is a distinct nuance that connects these structures to let you know that they're yours. There's an emphasis on weddings and marriages and the coupling between men and women, right? The Gnostic scriptures, it speaks about, it bends it, but it speaks about a woman bearing a child, right, without God's permission, right? Bearing a child, right? Then when we go to Kim, we see that around the cosmology of Asar and Heru and Aset, there is the story of the sexual act when Asar is dead, right? Sex again, right? In order for it to come about, they had to use a magical implement to reinvigorate his lost phallus, right? So here is another system of sexuality involved, right? And then when we get to a very sexual book in the Bible, is called the Songs of Songs, the
Song of Solomon.
Song of Solomon is akin to almost being a porno novel from that era. Okay, but what is the preoccupation with sex? Why is sex so much of a significant aspect of it, of the through line connecting all the stories? And what does sex have to do with the zodiac? Now, my purpose of teaching is to teach people how to use your mind to control the circumstances surrounding your life.
There you go.
There's nothing else to teach. If you're teaching anybody anything that does not empower them to control the circumstances surrounding their very existence, you are wasting their time.
Yep.
Okay? Now, history is a beautiful thing if it can allow you to control the circumstances surrounding your life. And only those who are courageous can take the lessons of history and enact them in their own personal doings, and then by way of doing so, give us the onus to do the same. Okay? So now when we look at history, history clearly shows us that it is an organic undertaking that lives in the minds of men. You understand? So now, astrally and metaphysically, you cannot bring anything into existence to control the circumstances surrounding your life unless you utilize the energy of sex. It is impossible. Sex, meaning you couple the energies of your intent with the energies required of procreation on the astral and telepathic level, and they couple, and the child is the destiny of your intent. So now, what does this have to do with Kabbalah? Kabbalah is, quote unquote, many things, but I'm going to, it would take us many moons to explain essentially all of the facets of what Kabbalah could be, is, and what it will be in the future when we're done with it. However, I'm going to tell you this. It is a system by which to utilize your mind to control the circumstances surrounding your life. How does it do that? It helps you to take every emotional experience and find a place for it where you can work through your problem, whatever, within your psyche on the meditative realm. Who agrees that mind is the master of matter?
I do, yeah.
Everyone says that. Everyone says that, but you all of us, myself included, we are in a constant battle between the physical consciousness and the spirit consciousness. There's a part of your psyche that knows the absolute truth. It stands off in the corner and it watches your passion mind and your other minds that have been implanted and created from your experience have dialogues. The grand pymander, the one that knows everything, is just sitting in your mind looking at those other passions as though they're fools, right? So he knows that the work can't be done because they're having an argument, right? See, many of the time when we see debates and things of, I don't want to say debate because I don't want people to think that I'm being subliminal. When we have disagreements in our dialogues, right? Unsafe communication. Many of the times the unsafe communication is going on within the person. When you speak a thing, you are automatically expressing your greatest thought. Whatever you into, that's your best thinking. If you can't pay your rent at the end of the month, that's a product of your best thinking. Okay? No, there's no other way to see it. Okay? So now, back to the marriage. Now, what do we intend to marry in order for us to come down and bring down our intent in order to control the circumstances surrounding our life? We have to identify within the psyche the dualisms involved within everything in existence and then mingle them in our magical implements. Now, how do you bring the fulcrum, bring things together. And I will illustrate for you the tool used by the Kabbalists of ancient law to actually write the Bible. You will see in our next installment, I will go where really 101s are really theories, names, and dates. In the next course, we'll get into detail, and I'll show you where in distinct places in the Bible you will see the tree of life expressed in verse, but we will write it and draw it out here, and I'll show you something. The tree of life, who's familiar with it? Are you all familiar with the, it's called conventionally the Rites. The tree of life is composed of 10 Sephiroth, and the Sephiroth are composed on the tree as such. The word Sephiroth means number or emanation or sphere. They conform, do you all see it? Now, the Rites is composed of 10 Sephiroth. Now, the 10 Sephiroth are laid out in this fashion. Now, the Sephiroth in the Tree of Life is actually a meditative tool, one used by those who look at it to organize their thinking in order for you to come about to a clear, coherent, crystallized idea. Many of us have emotions and feelings that we cannot vacillate, that we cannot funnel to their proper area where it can be addressed and harnessed. So a lot of our thinking is fragmented. People throw a dilemma at you. You don't know where to compartmentalize it in order for you to deal with it. So now, the Tree of Life it appears in this fashion. However, the tree does not work. It does not work, nor will it ever work unless you split the tree into 4 distinct worlds. These are the 4 worlds. Do you have another color besides this as well?
Mm-hmm.
Now these are the Sephiroth. My tree look kind of drunk. Drunk-ass tree. Here we go. Look better, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, good. Now, this tree will not work. It just is fancy, it just look cute when you're looking at it like this until you break it into its 4 distinct worlds. You cannot make the marriage and create the descent or the birthing process until the 4 worlds are created or manufactured. Now, the 4 worlds are emblematic of the great deific force spoken about in the biblical text. When you go to the book of Proverbs, chapter 1, verse 7, it says, the fear of Yahweh is the beginning of knowledge. The fear of Yahweh is the beginning of knowledge. Okay, I'm going to write that out in the Hebrew, and then we're going to go ahead.
How does that translate? Because in the Bible it says the fear of the Lord.
I'm going to write it out in the Hebrew and show you.
Okay.
The fear of Yahweh is the beginning of knowledge. Now, Yahweh is his distinct connection to the tree of life is in this fashion. You write Yahweh's name in this manner. Yod, He, Vowel, and then we recreate the He, the N. Yeah. Now, you can't bring anything into being unless you do it through Yahweh. Thus, according to the Chaldean priesthood who enacted this spiritual system and encoded it into the Bible, now, or the Torah, as we refer to it. Now, Yahweh describes your 4 sensory perception centers. Yahweh is seeing, hearing, tasting, and and smelling, your olfactory sense, right? There are only 4 senses. The 5th sense is a sensation. That's a scientific feeling. It's only 4 senses. Your 4 sensory perception centers are what creates your reality. It requires 4 distinct forces or energies that direct a course of their because I can see stuff. Imagine if you could just see, can't smell, can't taste, can't hear. You just see things, right? You can only get that wavelength of expression. Then if you can only hear, and you can't see, you can't smell, you can't taste, then that. Now imagine you couple all of them together. You can close your eyes and you could walk through the streets of New York and close your eyes and you can tell what you're hearing, you're smelling, and even your tasting that, oh, I'm walking by a Frankfurter stand, or I'm here. You have crystallized a relevant experience based off your sensory perception centers. So the ancients of old were trying to tell us that the God in the Bible is you by way of your sensory perception. This is why the name of the God doesn't turn into Yahweh until you get to chapter 2 of Genesis, verse 4. Then his name, the title, Yahweh, is a process. It's a magical process for bringing down intent. Now, the Yod of Yahweh exists on this world, which is called the Absolutic world. And Reverend Valentine, those of you who came to the Obama lecture that we did at the National Black Theater, he described some Kabbalistic terms that give people an understanding, effective understanding of what the Pope intends to assert himself to be as the vicar of Christ. That is, when you get into the spiritual writings of Ignatius Loyola, you begin to see that there was a Sufi, Moorish, Islamic, Gnostic bend to all of what we conventionally term Catholicism. The rosary beads and all that is vicary. That's all Islamic stuff. They took a hodgepodge of everybody's stuff, coupled it together, canonized it, and killed some people over it to make it powerful. You understand? And now they pimp it as that. Now, Reverend Valentine was showing the term absolutic realm deals with the realm which is closest to God. So they're saying that the Pope is the vicar of God. The Pope being the vicar of God means he's the replacement. The word vicar means the replacement. So he is the physical personification. So the first personification of deity in the physical apparatus exists in absolute. The root of the word absolute means axel, means the closest to, that which is the closest to. Now, absolute is occupied by one Sephiroth. This Sephiroth is called Keter. You spell Keter K-E-T-H-E-R. However, I want you all to spell it this way. K-T-H-R. K equals 20. The TH equals 400. And the Resh, or the R, equals 200. Now I want you to add those numbers up. Add up the 20 plus 400 and 200. And whoever gets it first, tell me what.
It looks like you left out the vowels. Does that have something to do with that?
Absolutely. This is how you spell Keter. However, what we're going to bring up in the other class is that the words for the Sephiroth, except for 3 of them, are approximations to certain numbers. The tree of life is actually it's like an algorithmic tool that has so many numeric nuances connecting each aspect of it together that if you throw any concept at the tree can funnel back its meaning to through the use of symbol literacy. Now, back to bringing down things into the physical world. Now, it's very significant why the Sephiroth of Absolute is called Kether, and it sits up here by itself. Kether means crown. However, crown is, to me, not the appropriate title, for the simple fact that crown, it really means to circumnavigate, or to have a circumference. When you put a crown on, you circle your head. You understand? So now, when we look at the word, it equals 620, right? Now, 620 is very significant because the ancients of old know that in order for magic to work, it had to be mathemagical. Because mathemagic principles are the principles that don't never fall off. You can't break math. You heard? That's one law that you can't break. Math will break you before you are able to break math. So why did they make the crown equal to number 62 or 620? Because they use different variants to express the term. The number 620 is 1 over the prime of which is 619, right? Prime number equivalents are very significant because a prime number can only be divided by itself, right? Or numbers equal to its distributed parts. You know what I mean? So prime numbers are very significant numbers. So our ancestors would utilize numbers for a very propitious reason, to connect something beyond your very constituents. You are a number in so many ways is ridiculous. In order for me to transmit anything to your inner core, the aspect of you that I can get the most response from on any level, I direct numbers to you. That's how I can get right, because you emit the sound middle C. It's like you the middle key on the piano all the time. So if God comes in the Word, right? If God comes in the Word, then we'll see as the class progresses that sex coupled with the energy of, coupled with the word, the enunciation of your intent is, all, in a sense, all of what magic entails. Okay? It's making your stuff clear. So now Kether equaling 620 is a number form of the number 26. 620 is a number form of the number 26 when we jumble it. We put the 2 there and the 6 there. Now what's so significant about number 26?
Because, well, it's the number 8, and the 8 is also a significant number.
When we add it in that manner, yes.
Yeah.
But the number 26 is the only number in the universe that exists between a square number and a cube number. So now Yahweh exists between a square number and a cube number in the middle of the tree of life in this fashion. The first Sephiroth is Kether. Then you have the second, which is Hokman. I'm going to speed through this. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Now when you add up the numbers of the middle Sephiroth, because we said that 26 exists between what and what? 26 exists between the second and the third dimension. Therefore, if the 1 plus 6 is what?
7.
7 plus 9 is what?
16.
16 plus 10 is what?
26.
26. So very propitious and auspicious, the ancestors made it that Yahweh exists between the very center of the tree of life. This is why, again, when we go to the book of Proverbs, it says, Yara Elohim Bereshith Daf. The beginning of God is fear, or fear is the beginning of God. Now, why do they say Yara? Yara. Why do they say Yara? The word Yara, in fact, in the Proverbs, it
Before
says,
you go on, explain that fear part again.
Fear.
Yeah.
It says that fear is the beginning of knowledge. Fear is the beginning of knowledge. And I'm going to tell brothers and sisters over and over again, all of your fancy concepts that you think are yours, like Kabbalah is not me. I'm not Kabbalah. I'm not none of these concepts that people utilize to identify themselves. You understand? Because if you really know who yourself is, you know that this body that you're occupied in is nothing but a meat puppet. It's nothing but a fancy cloak, a spaceship. Like when you go out of space, you got to put on an astronaut suit, or else you're going to explode or freeze to death or whatever, turn into a rock or something out there, right? So now, while you're down on this plane, when you're in hell, Sheol, this is the lowest level you can be. This is the most dense existence you can ever fathom. You use electrical energy. Everything you deal with is low density. Everything down here is low density. There's no such thing as nothing bad after this. It can only get better after this. You understand what I'm saying? So your spirit is cloaked in a body that can only occupy this physical realm. Therefore, this body is not you. The ancients knew that the body was not you. They knew the body was not you. They knew that this body, it occupies the space between the second and the third dimension. The second and the third dimension is where, from two-dimensional space, your intellect is able to create a third-dimensional construct. Only Yahweh can do that. Only your perception can do that. Your perception is the segue between these two realms. Now, this realm is masculine. This part of the tree, this pillar right here is the masculine pillar. This side of the pillar right here is the female pillar. Why? The female pillar deals with war. Warfare is a female practice. It's a God-given right to women to defend the most important aspect of creation. It's her ability to procreate and to have a child. That's the only thing worth getting busy for, is to defend black women's ability to have children. That's the highest ideal. If we were to get guns, it would be to do that, to make certain that that's able to be done. And she don't got to go to work. Okay? Now, she deals with, in these Sephiroth, she deals with birth through anguish. In Binah, she deals with war. In Geborah, right? And then in Hud, he, even though it's a female pillar, is founded on the masculine principle of reason. Now, it switches when we get to this side. Female, female principle. On this side of the tree is male, male, but it resides founded on the female principle. See? There's a cross-lateralization involved. You understand? So now what happens is, in order for Keter to be the crown or the intent of your greatest idea, say you want, what it is that everybody wants. Everybody wants the bow leader. They want a few dollars.
Yeah, money.
Because they know that that shit is a lie. Money can buy you happiness. Right? It can make you happy. I
think
I ain't trying to hear that.
I think that what they want the most is sex.
Yeah, well, it depends on your constitution. But even currency, even having currency, and even having a few dollars, it endows you with the ability to have that, all of those things that you want to gravitate towards you. Even if you ain't got a bankroll physically, if you look like you got a bankroll and you feel like it inside yourself, you ain't second guessing yourself, checking how you look and how you feel, because people can notice that. They know what you're working with in your current, and what's your worth and your ability to net and bring that goodness to you. You gotta feel yourself. So sex is very significant, and that also many of us in the Sephiroth that speaks specifically about sex all the time is the 9th Sephiroth. Now look where it's auspiciously situated. It's situated right over the 10th Sephiroth, which is female. This is where we on Easter today. This is where Ishtar, her name is the Shekinah, her name is Asherah, her name is so many names. She resides here. That's why in the Bible it says that men teach. It says men respect the instruction of your father and the teachings of your mother. The mother teaches. When you look at the word teaches, Torah. The Torah is female. The adept who wrote the Torah, or the group of brothers who wrote the Torah, said that the woman is the book and that her secrets are like unleashing parts of her naked skin. So the rabbi is the one making love with the Torah all the time, looking for her to expose herself to him. You understand? So there's the sexuality aspect of it again, because it's all about connecting the energies from Keter and bringing it, realizing it into the physical realm. Very significant. Now, I didn't mention this, I'm mentioning it now. And anybody know, when I speak very fragmented. I'm a Scorpio. I'm not good at making it plain. I sound like I'm speaking underwater. You ever heard somebody try to tell you something underwater? You can't really hear it. You got to read their lips. Say it again. You understand? But the reason we got digital, we can rewind these tapes and we can see it again. Each Sephiroth is connected by a path. There are a number of 22 paths connecting each Sephiroth. Each Sephiroth has on it a letter in the Hebrew alphabet. These letters act as conduits that connect the objective paths of the Sephiroth. The sound that connects the 9th Sephiroth to the 10th Sephiroth is Tau. Say it. Tau.
Tau.
Tau. Tau. Tau equals 400.
Okay.
Tau, the term or the sound Tau in Kim equals time and space. The concept of time and space is represented by the term Tau. So how auspicious is that the 9th Sephiroth of the one which deals with sexuality, it makes itself manifest into the physical world utilizing the cross, because that's what Tau means. It means the cross, right? It means the cross or the mark. This is why words like, what is the word for the definitive article in the English language? One of them in particular is the, right? The. Now, what is also synonymous with the word, with the sound Tau in language? What is the other word that is often used for T?
Thought.
D.
D.
Is also synonymous with T. D is also synonymous with T in the same way that W, V, and B are all related in language. They are all the same letter. In different alphabets, they appear different ways. So you can hear also the I and the Y are synonymous. When they anglicize and begin to write, you can see Jehovah's name written in so many different ways based off of that I and that J variants. But now, back to the Tau and the D, the Daleth. Now the word, check this out, but we're going to get deeper. I don't want to do no one-on-one. I want to go deeper. I want to challenge you all. The Tau is written like this, very interesting, right? It's like a serpent standing up, right? But then it has an appendage here that appears to be dropping. Then it goes like this, right? The other symbol that's like that, very interesting, the ancestors is deep. They made the word, which means beginning, have the letters of the last 3 letters of the Hebrew alphabet. Resh, right? Shin, Tau. Resh 200, Shin 300, Tau 400. The word for beginning is Rashid, right? They only put an A and a Yod there. Rashid means beginning and equals 9/11. Okay? Now, what does that mean when the word beginning equals 9/11 and then 9/11 happened on the Jewish New Year? And then the word for the Jewish New Year or the term of the month is Tishri, which equals 9/10, which is the day before. So you tell me if that was purposely done or not. And you would never be able to extrapolate this information if you were scared to go look back at the enemy's books. Because the enemy's books ain't nothing but a bunch of Xerox copies of your shit. Facsimile, blotched out, rewritten, put together, hashed, put a new cover on it, a new publisher, huh, and give it back to you, and you be like, that's some crackers, that's from white folks. I don't deal with that, and it's all your science, and this is why you can't control the circumstances surrounding your life with the spiritual system that you have now. The spiritual systems that we, and I have no spiritual system, I embrace all spiritual systems. I know that I am the divine Pymander. I am God in the flesh. I know that I create gods. I make gods so gods could do what I want them to do. I think in that light. I see enemies way before they even see me. I put hoods on their heads. I make them look the other way. I make their words sound crazy. I make them do strange things and they don't even know why they're doing it. They're getting in the coffin. Don't even know it. Taking their friends with them too. Don't even know it. Haughtiness, pride, all of those things blind men. It blinds them. It blinds them. And the divisiveness is all a precursor to their very own destruction. So the best way to live in life is to have no, you can't accept no enemy. You can't accept that shit. You understand what I'm saying? You cannot say that nigga there, you know what I'm saying, that them niggas over there, or whoever, because what you do is you automatically, if you perceive yourself to be a significant person, you automatically put these people, you give pigeons an upgrade to eagle shit. And they both birds, but they don't fly in the same latitude, right? Eagles shit on pigeons. So why would an eagle call a pigeon up to come fly with it? Right? It's almost impossible. Anyway, we all admire it. All these stuff is illusion where people are thinking that there's competitions or to even think that there is a competition. What creates this, and this is what fuels the dynamics of this society, this fake illusion that there's a conflict. But the person who means the most in the whole existence is you. I am nothing without your permission in your realm of perception.
Yep.
My thing is real estate. I want real estate in the psyche because I know I could live forever if I got real estate in the psyche. This is why our ancestors were hell-bent, anal almost, going berserk about getting their names into the future before we rewrite the Quran, the Bible, and every other book in a few days. Okay? We are going through aeons of change. The ancestors put themselves from the past into the future in our minds so that we can take them through the galactic center. You understand? Through the fact that even the images and the spiritual systems that you presently perceive to be fake. Like people abhor Christianity. People hate Christianity. The initiate to go to the synagogue, the church, and the masjid, participate in service, but able to extrapolate from each the full comprehensive understanding of what they're dealing with without having to shun, you know what I'm saying, it with abhorrent behavior. You understand? Like going to somebody, how Bobby said, when you go to your people's house on Christmas, and you commenting on their tree and all these gifts, and you judging them, well, what the hell you come over there for? You understand what I'm saying? That's not what this is about. Now, when you bring things into being, very important, you have to, and look at the scheme of the tree of life. It shows you a funnel, right? You know a funnel is shaped like this, and when you want to put antifreeze in your car and all that, you just can't pour that shit in there. It'll spill everywhere. You got to put the funnel up, right? Now, the word funnel is spelled like this. Look at it. This is how ancient language, you don't know nothing until you know etymology. Funnel is spelled like this, right? Funnel, right? Now, the F in language is synonymous with the P, right? Then you bring down, we don't need the U, we bring down the N, so we get the word pen, right? Now, when you put in language, say we use the E, L anyway in all languages means power, right? But the root of the word funnel is pen. And it comes from the word penny, which means the face, right? In order for magic to work, you have to lift up your face. lift up your face. Now, what is they talking about when they talk about lift up your face? Penny equals 80 plus 50 is what?
130.
Plus 10 is what?
140.
140 is another form of 14. 14 was the 14th piece missing. The 14th piece missing was the magical implementation of sexuality. Doesn't have to necessarily be the external in and out. It can be the sexual energy generated within oneself, raised. Raise up your face, right? Let me show you something. Egyptian Book of the Dead, the crackers call it, right? Book of Coming Forth by Day, very interesting passage. It says in chapter, I hate Roman numerals, I've never learned them. And I would sound so ignorant if I just read off the Roman numeral, the chapter. But in particular, I'll read right from the verse. It says, my face, O gods of the Duat, who repulse my face, who resist the mighty ones, have led me the stars which never rest. I have made the ways holy of the Hamatet. To your Lord, the soul great of terror, hath commanded for me, Heru, to lift up your faces, that ye may see me. Right? Very interesting. Who remembers the crash when they blew up the space shuttle?
Yeah.
Remember that?
Yeah.
The 7 astronauts, right?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Now, President draws on Bible to comfort a grieving nation, right? Now, listen to what he reads. He reads from the book of Isaiah, chapter 40, verse 26. One of the journalist says is one of the most beautiful passages in the Hebrew scriptures. It says, lift up your eyes and look to the heavens, who created all of these, right? It says, lift up your eyes, right? Now the word penny in Hebrew is synonymous with the pineal gland. The penny, meaning the face, means the external cloak or holographic image of something. Okay? When they're speaking about the face of things, it is the appearance of things, that which is external. Okay? So now, biblically, they borrow from the Commission term psychologically for you to have a sense of attention, pay attention, right, prior to a significant aspect of the event, where the time-space event where you make something manifest. Okay? So now, penny has something to do with funnel, because in order for you to bring something down into the physical world, you have to have an apparatus that does it. Your pineal gland acts as a funnel that brings cosmic light imperatives. You know the function of your pineal gland is to keep you in cosmic accord to cosmological cycles. It has a cosmic timer in it that keeps you closely connected to the duat, the dream world. You always dreaming. You always dreaming, and the physical world bows down and respects mind. The physical world is a slave to mind. The physical world is a slave to mind, but what is the master over the physical world? What masters that which is physical? Because that which is physical dissipates. What masters that which dissipates? Fear. Fear masters that which dissipates. Fear masters that which dissipates, but what masters that which is eternal? Nothing. Fear is a servant to that which is eternal, but it destroys that which is what? Temporary. You understand? So the funnel that brings out, this is how they turn on your pineal gland. Because if I could get your pineal gland activated through imagery, I can make my idea manifest in the physical world. Say my pineal gland is calcified. You know, I ain't got enough melanin. You know what I'm saying? I can't holographically create how you guys create. You know? Even though if you don't know nothing about nothing, you ain't gotta know nothing about nothing. You ain't never heard of me, Azariah, nobody. You never heard of nothing. But you are more powerful than the melanin-less, and you more powerful than those who cannot holographically create their own destiny. So what they're going to do, they will create a horrific event to stimulate your penny, your face, to awaken your pineal gland, and use it as a funnel to descend, to bring down all of their intent. You are the one that makes everything physical come into being. Why do you think, let's go back to Freemasonry. Freemasonry illustrates beautifully the intent of and the great wisdom of the mythical Solomon. He had to do something that his father couldn't do. His father was a great king, but his father was a man of war. His father, as the man of war, his name equals the number 14. Dawood is David. Dawood is David. Say it. Say Dawood. Dawood. Sounds like Dawood.
Yes, it does.
Doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Because the letter Daleth in language equals door. It means door. You got to come in through the 4. That's why the doorway got 4 corners. The Daleth. You come in through the 4. Right? Now, what's the last letter of the word Daleth? It starts with a D, ends with a thou. So you got to come in through the 4 and exit on the 4. Huh? There goes that 44. Right? Then they Nelson Mandela, my man. We don't have no symbol literacy. Let me go back to King Solomon. King Solomon's temple is manufactured off of the knowledge that all physical structures are made after the female's body. The ancients of old, there is no King Solomon's temple. There's no such thing as King Solomon's temple. King Solomon's temple is a holographic template for meditative purposes, working on what's called in medieval times, they used to call it the art of memory. And old Moors used to practice this. If you want to really get into its use in the narrative fiction, Thomas Harris used it in, I believe, the book Hannibal. Very auspicious. He uses it in the book Hannibal for one of the things that Hannibal Lecter knew how to do. And if you notice, he only killed you a piece of shit. He never was killing nobody that's good people. You understand what I'm saying? So he's kind of a heroic figure. You understand? So one of his practices in the book, right? And look, the opposite protagonist is Clarice Starling. You heard? That's a cult. I think her birthday is Christmas Eve. You heard? Read the books. And then they put them shit. Then they got a William Blake painting tattooed on the back of one of the assassins, one of the killers in the movie. William Blake is a huge Kabbalist. You know, he's the one that made the image of the Ancient of Days with the white-haired one, the father, pointing down the 2 fingers as though they are the compass from Freemasonry. See that? He's sitting on the clouds and he's going like this, down. That's a William Blake painting. That William Blake painting is supposed to see when in psychologically, white folks I know don't understand myth, because when they say, I want to be close to thy father inside the books, they automatically draw the father, a white-haired white man, because in their mind they don't understand the true import. They're talking about being close to your father. All of y'all have a father in here. I don't care if your father was a Rolling Stone. You love your daddy, don't you? There's a cleaving towards you and your father that you love about your father. You know what I'm saying? So spiritually, when they're saying that the adherent should be close to one's father, it don't mean that. Even in the biblical narrative, when they talk about Ham seeing his father's nakedness and was cursed, that's not nothing about no physical body nakedness. So now the woman body, the ancients knew that if I could make a physical apparatus, an architectural structure mapped after the body of the female, then I might be able to manifest God within the confines of that artifice. You understand? This is why they would go, and when you step on the porch, to my brothers who are in Freemasonry, you are stepping through the vaginal orifice when you go through the two pillars on the side. Both pillars equal the same number, right? The number 79. But they really cloak the number 77. The number 77 equals Oz. It equals goat or Oz, right? Now, the number 77 is super significant for mad different reasons that will belabor us to go into depth now, but it also cloaks the Islamic perspective and the slant on it. I don't even want to go there, because I don't want to go there yet. I'm going to go there at another time. However, I will tell you that the bronze pillars on the porch are emblematic of second, third dimension, and when you step into the vaginal orifice, those brothers who have sex on a regular basis, you know for a fact that if you go into your woman with your best thinking, right, whatever is on your mind that is significant, right, the bedroom now becomes an altar and a palace for manifesting your greatest thinking. You can close your eyes when you're in the artifice of woman, right? And visualize, I swear to God, you see colors and shit. You see all kinds of shit. It's like, it's almost getting on a spaceship that's taking you to a whole nother reality, a whole different time-space continuum. And this is why it's very significant that brothers start getting back into the occult fold of things and begin to understand why you did what you did when you did it. Okay? So now, those bronze pillars on the porch are twins. They both equal the same thing, but one's name is Boaz and the other name is Yakin, right? Now, Boaz means the B in Boaz is the blind. The 79 is the blind. The true number is 77, right? Now, sevens is very significant in Freemasonry, and it is by way of the winding staircase and the 3, 5, and 7 steps, which actually represent 3 elemental forces. Your knowledge that the 3 elemental forces have a connection to the 7 celestial bodies, and the 7 celestial bodies connection to the 5 deacons of the zodiac, right? So that's how you extract your magical power. Like, if anybody has had some good sex in the last 2 or 3 days, blame it on the moon. Scorpio, the moon was in Scorpio, right? It should be in Sag today. That's why you represent it.
Yeah.
Should be in Sag today or maybe tomorrow, right? And you got your red on and everything. And you got your black on. Black and red is colors for war, straight war. When people come with that black and red, it's popping. And look, y'all, look, you got your black and your red on, and you probably don't even know why you wear some of this stuff. It's because your body, your physical body, has an intelligence that's attenuated to cosmic and celestial principles. You understand? So you are beginning to do things that don't even know why you're doing it. You know? So you can chart, and our ancestors knew that you can chart and create destiny. You can make something happen in the future simply by picking out the propitious days. Now back to the funneling.
Let's do this funneling after about a 15-minute break.
All right.
That's it. So we're going to take a 15-minute break. Patronize the brother. He got all kind of goodies over there. We got goodies up.
Now, I want to show y'all something. Right here, I have a very interesting book that I bought in Philly at the Reading Terminal Market. Who's
Yes, yeah, I've been there.
Okay, when you go to Philadelphia, that should be for people in our community. You have to go to the Reading Terminal Market and then go off to Broadway to the bookstore Black and Nobel. Those 2 bookstores The one in the Reading Terminal Mall is called Miscellaneous Libre, right? Like miscellaneous books, Libre book. And the other is called Black and Nobel, it's on Broad and Area. And always you can find Brother Ampu there, who did you remember Brother Ampu did the astrological autopsy on Hollywood? That's where he was at too, with his books and stuff. Now, I got this from the Reading Terminal Market. It is the Society of Biblical Archaeology's 23rd session. It occurred on June 6, 1893. So this is a very old book. The reason why I brought it out is because I want to show you this. At the time, these were by some of the foremost scholars in their field, and they have some very interesting entries in here regarding language, but something I found very important in reference to us speaking about Oz is Oz appears in ancient literature to represent strength, the goat, as well as the sun. The goat is synonymous with the sun. When they start telling you masonry is goat worship, is evil. Occultism, witchcraft is goat worship, is evil. When they start talking about Baphomet, people don't know.
That's the devil, ain't it?
See, but that picture that they're depicting of Baphomet, the word Baphomet means Muhammad in Sephardic Hebrew. The Knights Templar are a fiction that are created by Western European occultists to be the heirs of the ones who held down the spirit-based intellectual prowess of the medieval age, or whatever age we were in, where we were in Europe doing the spiritual work. They tried to say, blame it on them. So they were persecuted for worshiping a deity called Baphomet. Something lost in the translation. Those are Muslims being persecuted for their practice of sorcery. West African Islam is replete with sorcery. There's no sunnah of the Rasulullah in those Western African little countries. They participate in innovation. They bring into the Islamic fold much of their own magical lore. Okay? Now, in this book, let me read this. It speaks about a particular fragment in the cuneiform text that speaks about time. And the term Oz is used in the cuneiform, and he speaks and makes it synonymous with something very important I'm going to build on later. The archaic Babylonian form, which later appears as, and it is to be read Oz, and they put the cuneiform for Oz, is explained as Utuki, son of the earth, and is stated to be equivalent to Shamsu, the sun. That is to say, the goat, sun, the son of the earth, the morning sun coming up from the underworld or from the sea. Now, the solar goat god, Oz, is depicted as sitting on a throne watching the revolution of the solar disk, which is placed upon a table and slowly turned by means of a rope. And he is clad in a robe of goat skins. This is the priesthood. The sacred jets of the Babylonian priests. Okay? Whilst Sin, Samas, and Ishtar are set as companions in his sight. Easter, Ishtar. That is to say, it is the solar goat god, Oz, who presides over the revolution of the solar disk, which process brings into sight the moon, the sun itself, and the morning and evening star. Hence to the star Enzu, which moreover is the top of the head of the constellation of the goat fish, is attributed by reduplication the power originally possessed by the goat sun, that of physically revealing the gods. But to the mind of the writer of the tablet, the simple physical fact originally referred to has been lost in ordinary spiritual application. Okay? So from 1893, we see a clear and distinct connection between, anybody have napkins?
I do. So what you the Baphomet that they show look kind of spooky though.
The Baphomet that they show is an artistic rendition drawn by the occultist, the French occultist, Eliphas-Levi. Thank you. Eliphas-Levi. Eliphas-Levi is the one responsible for writing what's known as transcendental magic.
I heard he got it from Randolph, though.
Who? Levi?
Yeah, the Baphomet, the artwork.
Perhaps he got it from him, but he's noted in the occult lore as being the artist for it. It's in the book Dogma et Ritual Magica, or Transcendental Magic. So I know that when people are wearing it, thank you, the people are wearing it on their shirts, people are showing it to be evil. They're demonizing the sun and demonizing the priesthood who utilize the goat as a representation of the sun. This is when we begin to use animals, right, to be emblematic of spiritual principles, are the undertones of a priesthood who are obsessed with symbol lore and symbol literacy. What they do is they have noticed the behavior of the goat. The goat is what? It's simply a goat. Animals never deviate from their nature.
It's true.
So that's one thing where man deviates from his nature. He will do things that are unman-like, mankind-like, whatever you want to call yourself. Mankind, human, whatever. That's a whole nother entity in and of itself. However, animals don't escape their nature. That's why they were used to express themselves as principles. You know, like the baboon was representative of Tahuti, because what does the baboon do? The baboon mimics. What does Tahuti do? He writes the records of what you do. You understand? See the connection? Mm-hmm. So, to the occultists, versed in symbol lore, when we see them depict Barry as a monkey, right? Or they use that adage to say that we are all monkeys, the spiritually inclined know that for them to call me a monkey is almost akin to calling me a god.
Because monkeys are very small.
Well, in symbol lore,
right.
See? And this is the way that people can magically manipulate back to the funnel, being your pineal gland, your penny, your face. People can manipulate the physical world as we know it by augmenting it via your visual cortex. I expose you to a symbol, and then I monopolize the meaning of the symbol, and then I may charge it with a catastrophic event that you will assign terror and fear to. So when I introduce fear into the equation, I open up a portal. Whenever fear is utilized, it opens up a localized. If I do something, if I were to, without you knowing it, set off an M80, one of them little, look, see, start talking crazy, all type of shit. If I was to set off a little M80 and it makes an explosion, boom, right, without you all knowing it, whatever I say right after that is now lodged in a compartment in your psychology for a tremendously long duration. All I have to do to reintroduce that event, that emotional event, and get your endocrine system back in alignment where I had it today, is to reinvigorate those same words. So 9/11 was a way of torturing the entire planet. Mm-hmm. It was to make everybody fearful of an imminent and dark enemy that can strike at any time. See? Now with that type of fear, you're working on a whole different area in the psychology of the mind of the planet. See, the planetary mind was attacked. That's why I'm from New York, for real, I'm from the bottom. I don't expose people to who I used to be. I know for a fact that New York, when I was young, was hard to come up in. You hear me? These new kids got iPods, diamond earrings, gold chains. They can wear tight fucking pants. Gucci, Louis, Prada. Nobody presses them. Nobody, nothing. You can't even, when I was little, you couldn't come outside with a haircut without them niggas getting at you, trying you. What's up? Who you think you is coming outside looking cute? Right? So what they did with 9/11 was they suppressed some aspects of the psychology, right? And what better place to do it than to do it on quartz crystals on Manhattan Island? Because we're dealing with telluric energy. Telluric energy is the intelligence inherent in rocks, sand, in Mount Morris Park. There's intelligence in that mountain. That's a mountain, Jack. That on the 5th Avenue side has a natural spring coming out of it in the summertime.
Yeah.
Why
that's right.
does Park Avenue start from Mount Morris Park and end at a portal at Washington Square Park in the Village? And there are mounds in that park. Try to say it's for the skaters, the skateboarders. Yeah, right. It could have been, all those parks were occupied by the indigenous people. Central Park, my brother did had been exposed to some significant information pertaining to Central Park, and black people used to live in Central Park, had a community there and homes there. Okay? They take propitious areas that have telluric energy housed within them, within the rocks and things of that nature, and they build artifices around them, and then within the artifice comes the cloud that the priesthood would speak about in the temple. The cloud inside of the temple, and this is always spoken about all throughout the Bible, is the emanation of what fills the volume of the artifice. In order for us to have sex cosmically, I gotta fill up the space, right? Right? Sisters know that if the brother can't fill up the space, there's really no magic, right? There's no magic. You have to fill the volume of the edifice, right? The volume of the edifice is spoken about in the Bible when they speak about the priesthood summoned the dark cloud, and out of the dark cloud spoke God. You understand? So if I say that the edifice has these dimensions, it has this dimension, that dimension, and all this, right? All these dimensionalities, right, are in essence emblems of the quantifying call forth of the space to fill in the volume. So these gods that we be calling fill up specific volumes of specific edifices. The edifice is mapped after the human body, and most in particular the female's body, right? What's that?
We got about 5-10 minutes.
On that tape?
No,
period?
on period.
Okay, let me wrap it up. Now, King Solomon's temple, very significant. Bronze pillars on the porch. Bronze represents on the tree of life, and we skipped a lot of tree symbolism, but I'm doing classes in Brooklyn, New York. I had a student come all the way from Connecticut yesterday to do the class, and I'm telling you, the classes, my space can only accommodate up to 4 people at one time, very small. But you get more in the small, intimate setting of what we're dealing with.
That's true.
Than you do in these big lecture halls.
Yep, that's right.
That's true.
The word lecture really means to read off of a piece of paper. This is why I respect Reverend Valentine. He's never done one without reading off the papers. And true, the lecture means to read. You understand? Off the paper. So the realm which occupies the bronze realm is this realm. This is the realm of Yetzirah, and it's called, and here we have Atziluth, Bariah is the second realm, and the third is Yetzirah. Yetzirah is composed of these 6 Sephiroth. These 6 Sephiroth represent this. Very significant. Back to the woman. Right? Back to the woman. I'm going to draw something. You tell me what it is.
Oh no, not a hexagon. Or a square.
What that is, brothers?
Cube.
That's that box.
Mm-hmm.
That's that box.
Mm-hmm.
What we call that thing, right? When we tell the sister, give me some box, please. Can I get a bump of that box? Right?
That must be new, brother. I ain't heard that one. I'm way back. I'm going way back. That's new to me.
You got to think out the box.
Yeah.
Right? So now, and it's a present. You put presents in the box, don't you?
Yeah.
Right? So,
Jack in the box.
that's right. Pandora's box.
Oh, yeah.
So now, this represents the realm where your magic goes down. Now let me describe the spiritual, the psychological aspects of what you're feeling when you're in the magic realm. You deal with mercy, you deal with war, you deal with beauty. They have now coupled together. Look what they're creating. Look what they're creating. Mercy. Now look at the planet that occupies mercy is Jupiter. Jupiter is given. In Kabbalah, in the Hebrew, it's Kesed, but it's called Gedula. Gedula means majesticness, manifest, like it's too much, it's overflowing. It's pop champagne, over. You get money, you're doing it, right? But too much of that'll kill you, won't it?
Yeah.
So you gotta come over here to Gebora. Gebora means no. Gebora means war. It means smite them at the neck. Stop playing with me. Let's get bored. You need that. Can you, too much of that'll get you in trouble, won't it? Mm-hmm. So what happens? It has to be polarized by its opposite. They formulate, in doing so, the funnel. The funnel is formulated. You see the design? See? You see the design? The triangle? Mm-hmm. When you pour into the triangle, what happens? It funnels down, don't it? Mm-hmm. It comes out, right? This is the funnel. Right? Now, the three supernals equal the tri-star Sirius. Sirius ain't 2 stars. Sirius is 3 stars. It's Sirius A, Sirius B, it's the Potolo, Sugitolo, and Mi Yatolo. It's male, female, and then intent. Now, masculine, no, this is father, intent, needs masculine force to have feminine womb. Feminine womb sends down into this realm the hologram. This is why this is the cube. You understand? The matrix, the cosmic matrix, the number 6 means sex. The matrix, the matriarch, the mother. This is a womb, this cube. You understand? Now why is they going to Mecca every year to spin around the cube? To spin around the cube. Teflon, Aria Kaplan. I bought this book in Miami, Florida, in the Judaica store, right? In the book, it shows you, and I'm going to show this on a DVD. I caught a Jew doing it at the airport. I went to Canada and they told me I couldn't go to Canada, but I got some footage of a Jew, a Sephardic, or it could be an Ashkenazi Jew. They tie a string or a leather strap around the arm, right? From the middle finger all the way up the arm, and they attach a black box to their forehead. Now, who would have to attach essentially what's already in your head outside your head? Somebody that don't got it. You understand? So it acts as like a technological cosmic antennae. You understand? For prayer purposes. Right? Now look what it says. Now, this is when you strap it on. This is the prayer you have to read. And it comes from the book of Hosea, right? From chapter 2, verse 21 through 22. And it says, I will wed you to me forever. Wedding. Here goes the wedding again. Okay? Nobody got the right to talk about sex, about magic or occultism or metaphysics if you're immoral, if you're into morality. Brothers, it's almost akin to dying. If you're not getting no box, you are going to die. You understand? That was one of the most significant things that Madame Butterfly, when she was here, that's where this bomb was talking about, is that the black man needs the box. You understand? To deny him the box is to destroy almost the universe. You understand what I'm saying? If I'm going to fight for something, I'm going to fight for that. for the connection to continuously be made, because you can't talk about liberation, but then you got all these moral issues in your bedroom, because how are we going to create a cadre, right? So again, he has to utilize the box, place it on his forehead to extrapolate the energies inherent within the cosmic womb. The 6 Sephiroth are called the Sephiroth Benayim, the builders, right? The root of Ben means stone. Ben is also the brick. It also means sun. So your sun is synonymous with being a brick, but as many suns you have become the bricks in the artifice of the inhabitants of God, a place for him to exist. Now below the 6, and this is what my last word, where these 6 and where your magic manifests is in the female Sephiroth of Dios, which is Malkuth. And she only gives to those who are kings. Be a king and nothing else. And you receive all the presents that you receive.
Give the brother a standing ovation. Standing ovation. All right. Brother A.A. Rashid. Listen, how many of y'all want him to come back and do another class? Come on. That don't sound like y'all want him to come back. All right. So we're going to look for good things from that brother from the future. All right. Brother A.A. Rashid. Rabbi.
Baby, get in the box.
We don't even participate in that. We don't know nobody's sick.
That's right.
I don't know nobody's sick.
No, I don't either, but you gotta be careful.
Be careful means come to me. Be careful means come to me so I can experience that which I fear. Don't bring nothing to you. You good money. You good.
Don't forget.
You bring what you fear most and what you love most to you.
Right.
The universe is the servant to your greatest thought. So don't be running talking about, I don't know nothing about disease. This ain't that.
Okay.
All right, don't forget, next week, guess who's here? Brother Alim Bey and Brother Seti.
Beautiful.
All right, they're not going to do the debate here. They're going to go down to block the debate to the lower levels. Over here, it's all about elevation. So we could tell by the knowledge the brother bring and the past 2 weeks. How many of y'all enjoyed the last 2 weeks and learned anything from that?
Yeah.
Those of you who were here.
In here.
Right. All right. Good. Yes, brother.
Saturday too?
Saturday, yes. That's Ali Muhammad. Ali Muhammad, yeah. That's National Black Theater. Yeah.
That's Saturday.
I'm in Guyana. I'm going to who in here? Is anybody Jewish?
Well, this is what I've been told about the Hebrew Israelites, that we're part of that nation. But, I don't know.
Well, the
I mean,
term,
we go to 12 tribes. So.
right. The term Jewish is has been grossly misunderstood and for the most part utilized to describe a racial group of people. However, it doesn't describe a race. It's really an English term, and it doesn't really, it's an anglicized variant of the word Yahoo. And what I'm driving at is that the fact that we say that we're not Jewish is indicative of the fact that we can't see ourselves in the historical experience. We think terms like Jewish or any of the systems that go along with what our Judaism are in fact Eurocentric. And we are now lending support to a new era where we no longer even want to participate in studying anything outside of what has been presented to us as being culturally and cultural affinity to our blackness. Now, every world religion, there's no such thing as a localized country or continent that is the one that has the monopoly on all spirituality. Spirituality is a through line, it's a spirit, it's a frequency that funnels itself through every living entity on the planet. And we got them from the Nag Hammadi Valley, which is in Egypt. Scrolls wrapped up when they unrolled the scrolls had some very interesting stories that spoke about some systems that were already in place. The Nag Hammadi scriptures were auspiciously found right after Israel took root as a faith state nation. Right? Now, the reason why is because, and the Dead Sea Scrolls started coming out, everybody wanted to holler about the Dead Sea Scrolls, is because a new group of people had politically fused themselves into the historical paradigm. And in doing so, they did so by way of spirituality, by obscuring the historical picture. Okay? So now they put themselves in the story, and now you're beginning to see your spiritual systems as absolute historical truths when they're not. They were just your tools to get back home. Now, when you look very clearly, there is a distinct nuance that connects these structures to let you know that they're yours. There's an emphasis on weddings and marriages and the coupling between men and women, right? The Gnostic scriptures, it speaks about, it bends it, but it speaks about a woman bearing a child, right, without God's permission, right, bearing a child, right. Then when we go to Kim, we see that around the cosmology of Asar and Heru and Aset, there is the story of the sexual act when Asar is dead, right, sex again, right. In order for it to come about, they had to use a magical implement to reinvigorate his lost phallus, right? So here is another system of sexuality involved, right? And then when we get to a very sexual book in the Bible, is called the Songs of Songs, the
Song of Solomon.
Song of Solomon is akin to almost being at point of the Bible. The Bible has various personages that have various functions. The one that we're going to speak about in particular, because of his role with the Ethiopian mythology, is Solomon. Now, why did I say his role with Ethiopian mythology? Who has ever heard of Wallace A. E. Wallace Budge?
Mm-hmm.
What is he known for?
Breaking down the Melanin.
Right, his work with the Metunet. Mm-hmm. Now, he was also instrumental in translating other texts from the region. He translated the texts of Zosimos, which were connected to the Gnostic vein of information. Now, when we take a look at Gnosticism, we see that Gnosticism stands as it's like, you ever been, it's like a portico. Before you get from the outside of the building into the inside, you gotta go through a little enclosure. You understand? It's the segue, it's the bridge for you to understand. In order for you to understand Egyptian cosmology, you have to be versed in Egyptian language. You cannot read Egyptian cosmology and expect to extrapolate all of this inner meaning without having a root inside of etymology and knowing language. So how do you attune yourself to learning a smidgen of what they meant in Kim when they were dialoguing? You got to go to the babies who came out of what they extrapolated from the experience, and then look at what they were saying, because they was really taking the crumbs from daddy. You understand? So you gotta, when you're a detective, if you're a detective and you trying to find and crack your case and find yourself in the historical paradigm, you gotta investigate every little thing. So now when we go to the Gnostic scriptures and we say, well, where did we get the Nag Hammadi and the Gnostic scriptures from? Where do we get them from? Everyone has a spiritual practice all over the globe. The through line connecting all of them together is astrology. What we have in the Western hemisphere, the Western world, or in Western philosophy or theology today in the form of our religious structure are all rooted in astrological principles. When you said that you learned from the Hebrew Israelites that you were part of a particular tribe, those 12 tribes are indicative or emblematic and representative of the 12 constellations. The 12 constellations are a delineation or a means by which to separate the sky for the understanding of those who see a bunch of constants. They were able to observe constants in the behaviors of the stars, that they did the same thing oftentimes during the same period. So through charting the stars, any civilized society that has anything to do with any type of stellar cosmology, they have to be working with a body of information that predates them at least 60,000 years in order for you to correctly chart various structures in the sky and to develop myths that imbue your knowledge of that. Now, what we have in the form of the Bible are traditions, mythical, and their origin of astrological principles as to what astrologically occurred in particular regions or particular times throughout the year. So all of those stories are a recapitulation over and over and over and over again on the manner in which man becomes man by way of his celestial source and light. Now, we have personages inside of the text whose names, who everything about them represents their role as the soul in the sojourn in the physical world. For instance, I'll speak because I want to go into something specific, and I'm putting this message out there to my brothers who are in the lodges of Freemasonry all over the world, that until you delve into your Freemasonic lore from the Kabbalistic perspective, until you delve into the why is your Freemasonry supported by the Bible, and if you remove the Bible, you would have no Freemasonry in the Western role. I'm putting out to you that you have to, in order for you to distinguish yourself in this present epoch, and you rise out of the barbecue and church-going Freemasonic lore and back into the esoteric and occult fold, the only way to be able to do that is to endow yourself with symbol literacy. So today, we're going to speak about, in particular, because it's going to segue and come back to astrology, we're going to speak about, hold up. And the reason why we have to speak about metallurgy is because we are in a time of collapse. You know, collapse in reference to your currency. People's energy is being depleted as a result of you not knowing that they're connecting you to their monetary system by way of psychology and by way of high-end magic. Everybody uses magic against you, and they use Kabbalistic magic in particular, or what is termed in Western society as Kabbalistic magic. When they were utilizing it before anybody even used the term Kabbalah, it had another name. You understand what I'm saying? So names are just place markers for those who indulge in the indulgence of history, and what a history affords you a quick view as to what happened prior to you. So now, metallurgy. Now, when we go to